Well, hello everybody, and welcome to episode number 52 of FinalBossTV, or WoW Endgame Rating Show. And I would be your host. My name is Adam K, aka Bay, and today we have on 2 tanks for some Warlords of Draenor beta testing impressions of Guardian Druids and Blood Death Knights, who are both super OP right now, and we're going to find out why. The thumbs up off camera is beautiful. But first, Annafel is here. Hi, Anna. There she is.
Hey, nice to see everybody today. Thanks for coming out to the show.
And do you want to premiere your new best friend?
Yeah,
right
I do.
Now? Yeah.
I did get a friend at Comic-Con to get me one of these. So he's very cute, as you can see. I'm going to put him in front of me. And he has big wings, and he's just an adorable size. And the tail is like this scratchy, you can probably hear it, like the metal going like that. And you can like put it around stuff, like around your hand or something. He's so cute. You can like hang him on stuff.
Oh my goodness. Does he have a name yet?
Well, he's the Nether Fairy Dragon, so
Correct.
that's his name is. I didn't give them any specific names, but he's very adorable, and I am very thankful to my friend at Comic-Con who got one of these for me. And I actually got 2 because I was really, really concerned about never getting one. So I asked 4 people to try and get them for me, and I had like a 2 out of 4 success rate. So I have
good stuff.
Yes, so I have an extra, and the extra may or may not be showing up later, but you know we'll let that. We'll save that for a future announcement. But yes, this is my friend, and thank you for letting me show him off. I'm a big plushie fan.
Yes.
Yeah. I have the shelf of Murlocs behind me. The famous shelf that fell down in a previous show.
Just be careful. Don't put it on the shelf. It might fall down again.
No, it is bolted to the wall now. Don't worry. It's not going anywhere.
Oh my goodness. Laughing in the background, one of our guests joining us today from the party closet is none other than Arielle. There he is. Hello, sir.
Goodness, hey, you really are in a closet there.
Well, see, my recruitment officer was the one that first started this whole party closet hashtag. So I kind of adopted it, and yeah, my computer basically faces a closet. So there you go.
Yeah, it's awesome. It's where you're good crafting.
Sure.
We'll lock you in the closet when we need any math done. It's like you can't come out of the closet until you've theory.
No food until you theory craft. Exactly.
There's no room. There's no power. I have nowhere to type stuff.
Exactly. Figure it out.
Oh, I
why
see.
They call it napkin math.
Figure it out. Also joining us, his second time on the show as well, is Mr. Reniat. There you are, sir. Hello.
Hi, how's it going? Back for round 2?
Yes, indeed. Now, we have a whole lot to talk about with blood decays tonight. Are you ready to get into the nitty-gritty?
Oh, yeah.
You ready to do it?
Always.
And you just got done recently, rearranging your room and stuff.
Yeah, my room is... You can only see the bed behind me, and that's very strategic, because if you looked elsewhere, it'd be a mess. Old roommate moved out, new roommate moved in, my room's a mess, new desk. It's crazy, but you can't see that, so it doesn't exist.
There you go. It doesn't exist. No, it doesn't happen. Don't give them the secrets of the 4th wall. It's all right. It's good. Just fine. Alrighty, Anna, you're up. Take it away.
Well, I'd love to hear a little bit more from our guests about what you do and where people can find you online. Now, I know you both have been here with us before, but definitely go through it for our people here who are watching the show. Tell them a little bit about the kinds of theory crafting that you do and where you post your stuff. Go with you first, Ari.
Yeah, go Ari first.
So I actually just got done with my other podcast, my real one, or my primary podcast.
Whoa!
Shots fired.
It's the one that I do every
Shots fired.
Team Off podcast over at teamoffcast.com, where we talk about basically all kind of PvE Druid stuff. And as for Guardian specific things, I take care of that over on theinkbear.com, which I inherited from Reese, who actually started it back in late Wrath, I think. Memory serves. She'll kill me if I get it wrong. So there you go.
Definitely a site that bears are used to going to.
Yes.
So we'll make sure to link your podcast and the Ink Bear for everybody after the show and in the description and such.
It'll definitely pop up. Absolutely.
Excellent. So Reniat, what do you do? Where can we read all of the things that you write?
My guides are posted on the Battle.net forums in the Death Knight forum on the US side, as well as MMOC. I actually just got done revamping it. It's the same thing on both, but I rewriting it from scratch over the last month or so. It's not quite completely edited and nice, but it's up there. That's progress. But you can also find me in Acurus, the IRC community for Death Knights. It's not just tanking; it's DPS as well. But we can figure it for that. But there are a lot of tanks, theorycrafters, players of all kinds in there. Yeah.
Well, that sounds good.
I want to make this one plug. I just got into the internet so I could stream, so I'm streaming now.
Yeah.
Oh, great! We'll link.
Sorry, I was fighting with the Fire Lord. He broke, so we're good to go now. We're all set.
Excellent. Well, let's hear a little bit more from you guys about what you've been doing specifically on this beta. Is this your first beta ever, or have you beta tested before in previous betas for World of Warcraft?
Go with Ren first on that one.
This is the first expansion beta that I've actually been able to do anything with. I didn't really start playing seriously, like beyond basic questing, until like right before Mists of Pandaria came out. So when Mists of Pandaria was the beta was active, I had access to it because I did the what was it called, the thing where you got Diablo 3 free, the BlizzCon.
The annual pass.
Annual pass. Yeah. So I had beta access. I went in there, I hit a dummy and said Death Strike works. I got nothing else. So I didn't really know enough to make any use of the beta back then, but I am making good use of it this time.
Excellent.
But then I've done a lot of PTR stuff during MOP, so I guess that counts.
Of course it does. It's sort of it's
Sure
different sameness, but yes, we'll go with that.
It's new things.
And then Ari, what about you, beta wise?
Well, this is, I mean, technically this is my third beta, but it's really only my second one actually doing anything resembling theory crafting. I was in Wrath, but I only did that because I wanted to see what Death Knights were like, and they were cool until they got nerfed to the ground. And then obviously I didn't do Cataclysm, but then Mists and Warlords now I've been in doing primarily theory crafting just to make sure that Guardians are going to come out the other side okay. Wasn't terribly successful last time. Hopefully it's going to work out better this time around.
I've said it before on the show. Yeah, I said a lot of stuff changed, obviously, going into Mist with the new talent system and just like how the game balanced around that. But they've had a full 2 years, to really fine-tune that system and then add new stuff to it. So I'm pretty sure we're going to see a lot of changes coming, and then we'll get a lot of better, I guess, feedback from everyone in testing the beta right now. It's very focused testing this time around, whereas the Mists beta was like, everyone gets a beta key that has an annual pass. So I'm sure there was like a crazy amount of information they got, but now this time you can probably have, I mean, are you guys putting in like tickets when you're beta testing? Are you putting in like either suggestions or like this is broken? Because I've done that.
How are you giving your feedback?
Yeah, because I did that on my stream before, and people like freaked out, like, what is he doing? So are you guys doing that too, like when you're testing stuff online?
Primarily, I maintain a list of Guardian specific bugs on the bug report forum, and then just kind of add new bugs or take bugs off as they get fixed or new ones show up. That's just for bugs though. For feedback, primarily it's just the consolidated Guardian feedback thread on the official beta classes forums.
Okay.
Man, there's so many of those. And it's at the point where we've said all we really have to say, so change stuff, and then we'll say more stuff.
Sounds good.
That works. And
how about you, Reniat?
Yeah.
There's a really good thread for DKs in the class beta forums that was made by one of the IRC members, Magdalena. It's like the Morbid Feedback 6.0. That's a really good consolidation of all like the feedback from DKs from all over. So whenever I post stuff, I post it in there, or just like Celestalon said in chat, just tweet it.
Yeah, I was gonna laugh at that.
Yeah, Celestalon. They tweet me. Yeah, a lot of people.
Yeah, they definitely tweet Celestalon. That is a true thing.
Who doesn't tweet Celestalon?
Right.
But I mean, the big difference is we usually get something resembling an answer. So.
Oh, that's true. So then, what do you guys both do while you're actually beta testing? Have you actually like pinpointed out certain things to test this time around, and actually like look at specifically for Guardian of Blood DKs? Or are you like just hitting the different tanking mobs, which are all the stuff in the Outland Shatreth is great to help, even though like the mythic dummy still just chases you around willy nilly. But you know, hey, what are you guys actually testing for in the beta right now, specifically, Ren?
For the most part, I actually do a lot of my theory crafting with math, so I prefer to like model everything on paper first.
Okay.
So the beta for me is more just a place to just kind of get a feel for the playstyle, and then testing, like the actual raid testing, is where I do most of my actual like in-game testing. Whereas the rest is just kind of keeping track of changes and just modifying, the paper math that I've done on various topics as it happens. I don't really do a whole lot of like 5-man testing or dummy testing, because it's valuable. I'm not gonna say it's not valuable, but for me, it just doesn't tell me as much as I'd like it to. Just because 5-mans are usually not the content I'm focused on, and like the healing is always a little bit different for tanks and 5-mans, and it's just not something that I generally find a lot of use in. Just for me and what I'm focused on right in this beta starts, because before 6.0 releases, I'll have a full, every level of content coverage in my guides and all. But for when it starts, I'm always, whatever awesome hardcore ratings. So that's kind of what I get down first. And then once things settled a little bit and start focusing on a little more of the broad scope of things for the guide.
Now, has Whatever We're Awesome been raid testing when the bosses have been open?
Yeah, we've been. I've been there for everyone, and with the guild, we've had a really good turnout this tier actually, in the guild. The only one that I've not been able to test was when I was stuck on the blue bar boss on the very first test. I'm sure many others were.
Yeah.
Well, that was actually the test though. The blue bar boss was the boss. So
yeah.
I mean,
I didn't beat it. I wasn't.
You didn't beat it? Did you wipe to it?
Yeah, I wiped repeatedly for about 5 hours.
Oh,
okay.
Goodness gracious.
Good testing then. Thank you for that. Good testing.
Now, how about you, Ari?
I'm sort of different because I can't actually attend pretty much any of the raid tests because I live on the West Coast. So they all happen when I work, which means I can't actually raid test, so I have to rely on other people to do that for me. And thankfully, I have a lot of people. A lot of Guardians that go and do raid testing, like Danish and Baran and Hans and stuff.
Right.
Otherwise, I spend most of my time on dummies and 5-mans, or working with pockets on SimC. We actually just recently did a pretty huge overhaul to DTPS, as in damage taken per second calculations, because it was doing something from like Wrath, which made no sense. So we recently fixed that, which is nice because it makes it a lot easier to evaluate individual stats for a certain function. Now that TMI exists, thanks Stack. So you can evaluate different stats for different things, as opposed to having them all conglomerated into this single weight, which makes no sense at all.
Right.
And other than that, usually what I focus on is making sure that it's fun first, and then tune the numbers later.
And we'll get to that a little bit later, too.
Yeah, it's easier to make sure that what your interaction with the game is fun, and then tune how effective it is around that, than it is try to tune effectiveness and then trying to force fun into that somehow. That's how I've always found it to be a more effective way to do that sort of thing. So that's how I do it.
I see. And actually, that brings up something that I wanted to ask Reniat. So, Ari, I know that you work on SimC, on the Bear module. Now, Reniat, how do you do your theory crafting? Do you use spreadsheets? Do you work on the Blood DK module for SimC? How are you playing with these numbers that you're figuring out from the beta?
Like I said earlier, I kind of like to model everything on paper. I've got like 5 like pages that kind of have like a little, not necessarily a flow chart, but they kind of show every aspect of like a resource generation and kind of give an idea of what this is based on and like the formulas behind everything. So I can kind of have an idea of like if you gain X amount of haste, how does it affect everything regarding our whole rune system, all that kind of stuff. So I prefer just do that and get a really good mathematical basis for everything.
Okay.
So it's a combination of that and then just feel for it. Tanking is generally a very feel-oriented thing. Obviously, numbers are important, but I mean, I wouldn't do the math if it wasn't important. But it's also important to just get a feel for the playstyle, how it feels on an abstract level, and that's kind of 2 parts. And then the math is there, and it can be adjusted based on what happens with the playstyle.
I see. Okay.
It's really interesting, too, because I didn't know this going into the show, but you guys do have different styles to attack the beta, like, completely. Like, I don't think I've ever done, like, paper math for this game since, like, BC. I drew out, like, Kael'thas and Vash and Lady Vash like strategies on paper, and then I made them in paint to show my guild. But that's like the last time I could think of ever doing like something on like paper. So it's neat that you actually like break down all the stuff first, and then I guess do you like then you go in the game and do you figure out what actually did it work? Did it actually do this much after your paper math?
The paper math is more for the actual like the whole resource return system, not so much individual spells. So it's a little bit harder to verify. But from what I can tell, it's pretty accurate.
I see.
So
yeah, Zach had a really detailed blog post on this recently about how you go into the game and like sit on a target dummy or hit stuff and like change the gear that you have on and figure out whether spells are actually working the way that you expect them to. And I have to imagine a lot of the beta testing that you're talking about is like that, where you just sort of nail down to how exactly a spell is doing its math to affect how much damage or healing it's doing to you.
Right, yeah, and it's just very different. Usually people just go in to the game. I know a lot of, like, I mean, even the Shaman Council stuff like that with Purge, like, he pulls out, like, strings off of, like, Warcraft logs, where he puts them into the Simcraft and, like, see if it breaks the thing, or, like, where values are and what's worth this and what's worth that. But, yeah, there's definitely a lot of that. And those people that do that, though, are incredibly helpful, because I don't do it. I don't do it. I wait for Purge to tell me, this is good, so do this. I'm like, thank you, sir. Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you very much. But, yeah, you guys do great work.
I mean, a lot of beta is figuring out like which tooltips are telling the truth and which tooltips are lying.
The tooltip always lies.
It does. Even when it's supposed to be telling the truth. Like the lacerate tooltip is completely wrong right now. But hey.
So what's wrong with it?
It seems to be that they.
There's an extra number in there that shouldn't be there.
Oh, like a whole extra number? What?
Yeah, it says it's doing an extra percentage of AP's bleed damage when it's actually not. So.
Oh, well.
I'm assuming that number's like it's actually doing the amount of damage it's supposed to before, DPS tuning's done, so no one really knows at this point. Yeah,
it seems like tooltips are one of those later things that they fix once they figured out how the spell is actually going to work, and then they make the tooltip actually say most of the time what it's kind of doing.
Now, to my knowledge, though, tooltips, at least for like almost every expansion until like Mists, actually didn't have any retroactive updating. Right, like it just tells you like the base amount that it did, and you had to like get add-ons to like tell you what it did. But now, as far as I know, in game, like if you gain attack power, it'll actually change the number on the tooltip, though, right?
Yep.
So that's probably why it's so hard to get them perfect, because they have checked for so many different things going into that one little thing.
Well, not only that, but they like also include all the passives in the
right, exactly,
the tooltip calculation, like perks and other talents and so on too.
Yeah, it's great to have it in the game, but I'm totally understandable the fact that like sometimes the tooltip breaks because there's so much information feeding to that one spot to tell you what it's doing, right? So, whew, indeed.
So let's move on to the next topic here. I'm very curious to hear how your very different guilds are going to be attacking the new content. What are y'all's plans for Warlords? And let's start with you, Reniat.
Whatever Awesome is a very, very focused guild. We do high-end raid content. So it's going to be the same as every other tier. We're going to hit it hard. We're going to go 20 hours a week, roughly, maybe more. Hopefully not too much more. Until things are dead. That's what we do. That's the plan. We have plans in place for some stuff, but like as far as like how we're going to handle like the mythic transition and all that stuff. But for the most part, it's just get in there and dig into the raids. So
right.
Are you guys building strategies based on some of the things that you're seeing on testing? Is that like an integral part of your Warlords prep process?
We're not so much isolating like actual completed strategies just because how much is subject to change, but it's definitely just going in there and seeing how different mechanics work. So we try not to do a ton of like the cheating. So we try to get, we don't use like, or at least we're not supposed to, that are not going to be with us. So we want to get kind of accurate representation.
Oh no.
Amp trinkets.
Yeah, amp trinkets is a big one. So as well as like, for example, we didn't bop off the tank debuff on one of the fire boss, the Flameweaver, whatever his name was.
That's good. Perfect. Got it.
Yeah, nailed it. But from what I know, I think people are saying that could be bopped off. And we, after saying that, didn't do it intentionally just because we wanted to see the fight in the actual mechanics. We wanted to make sure we understood how this mechanic worked, how it's going to affect us, so that we can, even though we don't have that strategy locked down, we know how everything works in the future, and we can kind of brainstorm and figure out solutions down the road.
I see. That's really interesting. So you guys have been at least trying to replicate what it might be like when it launches, even though things are subject to change.
Right. I mean, and then with the dungeon journal too, I mean, you can look at like the stuff that's going to be added in Mythic and then sort of gauge like, well, if this does this and that adds that, then you could think about it. But obviously the dungeon journal doesn't tell you everything that you need to know. So like I tested the twin organs, and they add like this weird arcane crystal stuff in Mythic, and I'm like, what's that going to do? Like, you have no idea. But it's cool to start seeing, at least from my knowledge so far, lots of interesting different combinations of mechanics to see on bosses so far. So I can't wait to see more of it. And then Arielle, what about you? What are you guys doing in the bear retirement home, sir?
So right now we're basically just farming garage to get everyone their mounts. Because we're compared to everyone else here, we're like super far behind. For a wide variety of reasons, ranging from we lost lots of time due to rostered stuff and so on. But so we're still finishing up our garage mounts, and then when Watchers, hey, 6.0 is coming, you should probably do something.
Right.
Warning comes out, which is, supposed to be quote unquote substantial. Although what Blizzard thinks is substantial and what we think is substantial are usually two entirely different things. We'll start gearing up for 20-man mythic rating, because we have to convert from 10 to 25 or 10 to 20 in order to do that, which is really like 25, 27 person roster. So
right, yeah.
I see.
It's going to be a process.
Process.
How's that conversion going for you guys? Because I know that's really rough for guilds that are moving up from 10 to 20.
I mean, we have, I think, if memory serves, 14 people so far for Warlords. And we have people taking breaks, which means we have to fill those spots up. So in the next couple of weeks, we'll probably be up to 16 or 17. And then once that aforementioned warning comes out, or we finish with our garage months, whichever comes first, we'll start slowly adding more people until we have the right number.
Yeah. I said it before, too, and I get questions all the time, like when I'm doing the live stream, like, where, I need to look for a guild for the next expansion, like, where do I go? And there's, like, all these guilds out there that are doing that 10 to 25 and then the Mythic 20 conversions. They were 10-man heroic guilds now, and they want to be 20-man mythics. They want to jump on that, then, the final end of content with the new expansion. So if you're looking for places or, people that need homes, there are guilds out there that are looking for, raiders that suit their time slots and with their requirements and the classes they need. So don't be like discouraged, like I can't find anything. Like Arielle's right here telling you that like they're looking for people. So other guilds are out there that are doing the same thing.
I mean, right now we're looking for a Resto Druid, Mistweaver Monk, or Holy Paladin.
Ooh, plug it.
Oh yeah, there you go.
or a Ret Pal. So.
Oh, you're looking for a Ret Paladin. I should probably look into that.
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah. Right.
Oh wait, my guildmates watch this show. Never mind.
Oh, shh. I'll edit that out. I'll edit it out.
Do you want to be like US 200? I mean, really, because we're not top of the pile by any stretch of the imagination, but we like to have fun.
You know what you're doing though.
You guys like to have fun.
Exactly, that's true.
So healers, remember Ari's guild is recruiting.
It's true. We are.
Now moving along, are you guys both coming to BlizzCon? Or will we be seeing you there?
I will. Yes. I'll be there on the virtual ticket.
You'll be there in spirit.
Oh, shot down. But Ari's
there, I wasn't actually. I wasn't actually sure if I was going to go at first, but then my friend Takari was like, "So I have this ticket." I'm like, "Well, twist my arm. I'll go." Jeez. But I mean, turns out it's the right thing to do because lots of my friends are going to be there. Like a lot of them, like almost all of them. And I mentioned this last time about BlizzCon. It's like it's pretty much an excuse to hang out with all of my friends.
Heck yeah! You're saying all of my friends, and I'm saying that everyone there is my friend. Because everyone there is like that. Those are our people, every single one of them. And I can't wait to go again because last year was my first one ever, so I could never go to the other ones. So we're looking forward to this.
I had fun with you last time, Bay. I won't be able to do that again.
No, don't do it. Oh, don't. You gotta embarrass me again.
I did it once. Once is enough.
That's fine. Oh goodness. Oh my gosh. But yeah, so Warlords of Draenor. So testing in a nutshell right now with you guys. Let's go a little bit more into an open forum of the beta broad strokes and see what you guys are thinking so far about the beta for Warlords of Draenor. So what are your thoughts just generally towards it so far? I have soapboxed enough about this expansion on the live stream and on past shows. But Reniat, what do you think so far? Not just about Blood DK, but just like in general of the expansion coming up. What do you think, sir? I want to know.
I'm really looking forward to it. I think it's really I like the changes to the engine a lot. Like the character models are fantastic. The ones that are there so far, and I'm sure the ones that are coming are going to be good too. But like that alone just makes it feel really good. Like those types of changes. Other than that, I pretty much have stuck primarily to raiding. So my glasses have a very raid testing tint to them. So that's kind of the majority of my beta experience has been just anything to do with raiding. Be that, you know, getting my playstyle order on the test dummy to make sure that I'm doing what's optimal in the raid test, or just the actual raid test itself. There are a few things that I'm not sure I like. For example, like I don't know if there's an option to turn this off, but the glowy aura around everybody, like right now in live, if you hover over someone with your mouse or click on them, they get a colored circle on their hitbox and then a nameplate. But in the beta, it like gives them a whole aura like around their whole character. That's like my one biggest pet peeve. I don't know why it just bothers me so much.
You can turn it. There's actually you can.
Okay.
You can turn it off. You can make it one of two different styles, and you can make it the old one. As far as I know, it's a toggle in the interface options. I think it's awesome, personally.
Yeah, it's a very love-hate thing. I've spoken to so many people, and there's no one who is like ambivalent on it. Everybody either loves it and thinks it's the greatest, or they just cannot stand it. So it's definitely one of those things that there's a good thing there's a toggle for it, so people can have that be the style they want.
If there's a toggle, then complaining about it is just user error. So I need to stop.
The problem is between the keyboard and the computer. So.
Yep.
Pepcac.
Aww.
Now, how about you, Ari? What do you think of the beta so far in just a general sort of broad strokes way?
Right.
The addition of the tank dummies is like one of the most amazing things ever. I really wish that was there.
And your garrisons, Chad.
They should be there after it was alive. Just throwing that out there. Because learning to tank is one of the more painful experiences, because either you succeed really well or you fail horribly. And having an environment where you can do that without like, I mean, proving grounds is okay, but even just a basic like learning my rotation and figuring out how to survive thing, like having a tank dummy do that is really useful. What else do I like? Shadow Moon Valley is amazing. I love it.
Yep.
I feel kind of sorry for the Horde because Frostfire Ridge is kind of but that's my personal opinion.
Right.
Alliance bias right there.
Finally, it took long enough.
I know, right?
Other than that, I mean, a lot of the new spell effects are really cool. The new aura for Tooth and Claw is amazing. Thank you, whoever did that. Really awesome. Like Survival Instincts has a new spell effect, which is really good. Savage Defense doesn't have a new spell effect. Celestial on.
Okay, right.
Are you enjoying playing a bear? Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, actually, well, so there's some parts that I really enjoy and some parts that I am kind of about. The rotation is really simple right now, and I think we're going to talk about that later.
Yes, sir.
But the responsiveness changes and inheriting sanctity of battle is like incredible. So
I got it too.
Fantastic. Yeah, I don't know if we've really mentioned the responsiveness changes much here, but it's nice that you bring that up. So you've really felt the difference?
Oh yeah. The number of times that I've like hit Survival Instincts and still died because the server didn't reconcile my activation of the ability before the incoming damage hit. Don't ask.
That's great. Is that like a Guardian Spirit type effect? I don't really know what Survival Instincts is.
It's like a prop paladin, or it's a Guardian version of Goak for prop paladins.
Okay.
Yep.
Cool.
Yeah, it's gonna be awesome. I mean, I don't know. That was a question we had tweeted out last week, is to do like a side-by-side comparison of like doing stuff on live with your normal MS and seeing how it feels, and then doing the same thing on beta if you can like get a controlled test when the servers aren't going wacky pants. And that would be interesting to see, because I know it's there. I don't know if it's gonna be really like perfectly smooth until the game is launched, because obviously we're on the beta servers and everyone's going off and online and whatever like that. But that's actually like incredibly important, and I wonder really how it's going to make a huge effect on just the raiding community in general. So that'll be epic.
Yeah, very much so.
Indeed.
So are there any changes that you're just really not happy with, not just with your class, but in general, looking forward to Warlords, changes in the game, anything that you just aren't so much a fan of, Ari?
I'm trying to remember if I wrote anything in the notes, because nothing comes to mind right now.
Well, that's good. Nothing comes to mind straight off the bat.
That's good.
No, nothing comes to mind straight off the bat. I like the raid cooldown parity. I like the definite dedication to making all tanks, similar, not like different flavors, but all similar effectiveness. Although there's problems with that right now, which we're going to get to. And I like that vengeance is gone. I like a lot of things. Good. I can't think of anything I hate right now, other than Savage Defense Effect.
Oh, other than the effect you need.
Definitely noted. Now, what about you, Reniat? Is there anything that you're just not all that happy with generally about Warlords coming up?
I'm going to dig in a little more raid side, and we'll get into that in detail later, but that's all I have to work on. But specifically, there are a couple things. One is the new idea of the new healer and tank meta, and how it's less. The tanks are doing much more of the healing, throughput on their own, as opposed to having the healers do a larger portion of it, which is gonna. And on the flip side, having the boss damage tuned to that, so it's gonna be less bursty, more throughput oriented tanking. I think that's probably my least favorite thing, because that ruins a lot of stuff that I think was really beautiful in the game. Not to be too corny, but I think there's a lot of value and a lot of really, really engaging gameplay in the dance between, surviving and recovering from burst damage. Preventing some, recovering from others. That was a really fun, engaging way to play, and I feel like that's gone. Granted, we haven't seen Mythic testing it, but in the few tests that we have had, it's been very throughput oriented. I've gone so far as to switch out or put in the glyph of vampiric blood, which for those who aren't DKs is it takes away the HP bonus, and it gives us an extra healing boost to the cooldown. Historically speaking, we've always avoided that glyph, because outside of specific mechanics like Makarok, the effective health was always more important, because the burst was the important part that you were trying to get rid of. The burst management and the threat management was managing the shape you were taking, and that was the much more powerful cooldown with the effective health versus the healing. But because it's all throughput oriented, the tests I've done so far, I've ended up just putting that in there, because effective health is a non-issue. It's just a matter of keeping up with the damage intake and healing. And I think it's not that playstyle is bad. I just think it replaces a playstyle that I loved with a playstyle that already existed in the role of a DPS player, whereas it's throughput oriented.
Right.
As opposed to this dance that no longer really exists. And again, we haven't seen Mythic, so this could all, and depending on the gear and the amount of stats healers have in Mythic content, eye level, as well as the boss damage in Mythic, this could be completely wrong, and it might be back to the way I love it. But for me, that's my biggest worry, especially as a DK, since it's such a pivotal part of our playstyle now. And we'll get into that later, I'm sure. But
right.
Yeah, it sounds like you're missing those hero moments when you could save yourself or be saved by a big heal from somebody.
I guess I'm not really sure, because I'm not a tank main or anything like that. I don't know what it felt like to tank all this expansion, right? Like how it felt like the ebb and flow of I'm almost dying, I'm alive, I'm almost dying, I'm alive kind of feel. Because so far what it looks like they're going in Draenor is that they really want tanks to feel like they are the masters of them being alive, not 4 healers and lots of triage and smart heals. Like, they want the tank to feel like they are responsible for not going splat, which is fine. But right now, I think some of the tanks, like we were talking about today with these two, feel like you can live forever. And I guess that's good, and also maybe kind of bad. So,
it's been previously stated that part of the goal is to make, unless I'm completely mishearing what Watcher and Celestion have said in the past,
right?
But to make tank healing actually important again, because right now, in 10-man, you just for me anyway, my healers basically just ignore me, because I'm the amount of regeneration I have means I keep myself alive without any issue. And in 25, you just ignore the tank because they have so much vengeance that they just keep themselves alive with whatever splash healing is going on, like smart heals and stuff. So I thought, and Chad's in chat, so you can correct me if you're wrong. Yeah, see, he's correcting me right now.
Yeah, well, he's saying that said the opposite of what I said, but I guess that doesn't feel like that on the beta right now, is because.
Oh no, yeah, totally agree.
Yeah, that's if they want to go with that, they have to they have to fix.
Oh yeah, 100% agree. Yeah.
And what he said in chat, for you guys who aren't actually here at the live show,
say it.
He said, no, it's the opposite of that, Bay. Tanks and Mop were extremely self-sufficient, way too little external healing needed, which we heard from tanks on previous shows that we did months and months ago, especially in 10-man, that like they wouldn't even have a healer assigned to them because they would just be taking care of themselves. I know you specifically said that on a previous show, Ari.
Yeah, Bran and I both said that. We don't, on the Guardian show, that we don't have dedicated healers for ourselves because Frenzy Regeneration with Vengeance is so ridiculous.
Right.
And yeah, even Celestine's follow-up to that is in Warlords tanks should need way more direct tank healing, which is exactly what I thought they were going for, which means...
Right, with the HP pools and everything too, yeah.
Yeah, the emphasis should be on how you handle the damage rather than how much you can survive, which is really good and a really, really important change, and I hope it actually pans out that way.
Sounds like there's a lot of...
Yeah, there's definitely a little bit going on right now, and that's the thing. I mean, like, obviously it's beta, but from what I've seen, and what Reniat was talking about before the show, is that, like, for example, for at least in the 5-man content, like, you ignore DKs, and at least for the heroic testing so far, outside of, like, ridiculous debuff stacking, you could ignore the DK. And we had a Guardian Druid live on the stable boss for, like, 30 seconds with no one alive. He was taking the boss and, like, 12 ads. He was just like, oh, this is fun. You know, just kind of, like, biting things with my face. And he was fine. So that can't happen on live. That would be, that'd be rough.
Well, we're definitely going to get into those changes in a bit more detail later. But just to finish up our general discussion of Warlords beta here, are there any changes that you'd still like to see added? And I mean, not just like specific class changes, but general things. Like I know a lot of people have been concerned about zones or about quest hubs, and you guys seem very play focused. But is there anything that you still want to see added to the beta?
I really shouldn't say this because it's like never going to happen. But yeah, thanks.
You should say it anyway. That's what we're here for.
But like armor affecting visual aesthetics and forms would be like the most amusing thing ever. But the ROI on that is so high or so low that it'll never happen.
Armor? You mean armor affecting like how your bear looks?
Yep.
Okay, I see. Yeah, maybe one day. Maybe you'll get a hat or something.
Yeah, give the bears a hat.
Give the bears hats. Maybe not on any of the rest of the armor.
Oh, well, I mean, it's just one of the most commonly cited reasons for people switching to other tanks is like, I can't see you like my bear looks the same. When I get all this like cool heroic armor, like it should look different.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I see. Now, how about you, Reniat? What do you think?
Yeah, Ren, go.
Like I said earlier, my focus has been kind of rating oriented. So I don't really have any like major things I'd like to see added to the content yet. Just general raid balancing and fixing of various classes that I'm looking forward to most.
I see.
Do you have anything you want added to the game so far, Anna? What about you? We'll turn around on ourselves here.
What about me?
Yeah.
No, I mean I'm a big fan of a lot of the changes that they're making to Warlords, and I'm generally excited to see where all of them go. I mean, of course, I did chime in on the tagging discussion that happened the other day. But that's not necessarily something I'd really believe in seeing. It's more something I'd like to hear a little more from the developers about what their thought processes are. And I also chimed in on the home zone issue, like the home city issue, because it would be really nice to be based in Karabor. But again, that's the kind of thing that I'll roll with when it launches, and I'm open-minded, and I'd like to see where we're going to go with that. But I'm pretty much on Reniat's page where so many of the things that we've been discussing on the show have been caveated by, well, it's not tuned yet, so we can't really figure out how it's going. Or what Reniat said before, where mythic testing hasn't been implemented yet, so we can't really tell what damage patterns are going to be like in mythic. And that's really what I'd also like to see in beta. That really rang true when he said that. I would say that's my number one.
Okay. My only big thing. My only thing I said before, and at Celestial in chat before on another show, was that I think that the healing and tanking dummy system that's currently in Outland chat should be in your garrison in a corner somewhere where you can like maybe toggle a control panel and it changes which dummies are actually being shown. So like
that would be such a good idea.
A solo tank healing dummy, maybe a small group of AoE tanking healing dummies, a small group of damage dealing dummies that you can tank, or a boss that you can change the difficulty of in your garrison. That also brings a lot of things that like you can bring in your healers to your garrison to bring to your party, and then you can have them test tank healing and damage on you with like 2 of them, right? Like a holy paladin and a priest, or try like
instead of having all this clutter from all these other people sitting around the dummies. That would be amazing.
In your
That's such a good idea.
In your phased garrison, and that would be like I would sit there because the DPS could then be by themselves and DPS the dummies, because DPS testing right now is all you can really do on dummies, and you're like with 75 million other people all with their debuffs and their AoE and their stuff and their spell effects and their noise. If you want to test your own rotation out, especially because things are changing so much, put it in your garrison, put it in a corner by someone that you can like toggle like you do with the statue toggle, which is obviously different technology, but that's what I want. That's it.
Yeah, and even DPS have been asking for those raid debuff dummies that show up on PTR in the live game, like the dummies that have all of the appropriate debuffs and that buff you appropriately as though you were in a raid, because it makes things so much easier to test when you have all of those debuffs and buffs. And so I'm on your page, Bay. I think that would be really great.
I mean, not to put more stuff in garrisons, but because of the garrisons being such a pivotal thing in Warlords, and just to put more reason to spend more time in your garrison with your followers and doing stuff there, and like you can do your tests while your followers are out doing their things, and then they go bing ding, we're back, and then you go, oh, I'm gonna walk over there and send them back out again, walk over there and hit the dummy again. Like you can do that stuff in your little home in the game, because right now all you do is you go back, send your guys out, and then leave most of the time. Like put a little more in there so we can say that. That's what I want. I just love garrison, so I'm like, ah.
And they've spoken a lot about trying to make things less opaque. And, well, this is a situation where you could really help the players out by providing us with this way to test, or even for somebody who's not really into theory crafting, just to go in, like a new healer, and like figure out what it's like to use all of their healing spells and stuff on an actual dummy. I think that's a great idea, Babe.
How about one step further and have a panda that could teleport you to your proving grounds from your garrison?
Yeah.
So after you test your stuff in your garrison in your little place, like away from people, you can then teleport to the proving grounds and then prove yourself, right?
they dropping bombs.
There you go. Everyone gets 1, but you just got 2.
Yes.
Oh my goodness. All right, next little topic. I'm gonna bring this question up real quick. Actually, there's a question here. Where's this question? Question comes in from from Pasta Sauce, delicious, from EU Darkspear. With all the ability pruning, do you think that Guardians, and also Blood Death Knights, we'll get to you, will still have fun and engaging gameplay playstyles, endgame playstyles, I'm sorry. A lot of classes seems to have lots of downtime. So I'll go with Guardians first.
Okay, so I guess we'll get this going. There are essentially 2 rotations right now for Guardians. There's one with Polarize and one without Polarize. And before I dive into this, I'm assuming, and I could be completely wrong on this, but I'm assuming that the number of like rotational buttons that we're counting here includes active mitigation and offensive. So without Pulverize, we have 3 active mitigation abilities: Maul with when Tooth and Claws up, but you never really use it otherwise. Frenzy Regen, Savage Defense, and then you have Mangle, Lacerate, and Thrash. Fairy Fire still exists. It's just a pulling tool now. It doesn't do enough damage, nor does it reset Mangle. So you just use it as a pulling tool, and it's instant cast now, which is pretty sweet. So thank you for that. Or not instant cast, has no cooldown, which is really amazing.
Right.
Which is super good for pulling or maintaining range threat on something, which is really awesome. But really, the rotation without Pulverize is just you Mangle, you Thrash, you spam Lacerate until Mangle comes up, then you press Mangle and refresh Thrash. That's all you do. It's so easy. And not only that, but the choice of when do you use Maul isn't really a choice anymore, because when Tooth and Claw procs, it's free. Initially, I had actually been like, okay, you know what? In the grand scheme of how much rage regenerating and how much maintaining, like spending Tooth and Claw procs actually costs, that's actually fine. But from an actual, like a fun perspective, it's like, Tooth and Claw procs, and I just immediately press them all because I have no reason not to. You never pay attention to how much the rage cost is, or whether or not you need to press Savage Defense in a couple seconds, or whether you need to heal or anything. You just immediately press it, which takes a lot of the choice out of how you actually spend your resources. So one of the, I think, easy changes there, and this is kind of like, if anyone remembers way back in the day how they changed, like in vanilla, how they changed like rested experience gain from normal experience, if I remember correctly, a long time ago. You just transfer the rage generation that you would need to power Tooth and Claw to rage stats, and then make Maul not free when Tooth and Claw's up. The net change is 0, but you actually have to think about when you're pressing it now, which would be really cool. And then the Pulverize. The thing about Pulverize is, and obviously it's way too strong, and we all know it's going to get nerfed. But all it does is you take a 10-second block, and you replace one mangle with Pulverize. It sounds like a small change, but you have to remember that within that 10-second block, you also have to press 4 lacerates in order to maintain Pulverize because it's so strong. Which, I mean, it's okay. It'd be nice if it was 12 seconds, because 10 seconds is really short, and it's really hard to press all the buttons you want to press in that 12-second window, while actually maintaining the super strong buff that, if you don't maintain it, feels like really bad. Unlike the Cataclysm Pulverize, where it was like, oh, if you let Pulverize drop off, it's only 9% crit, who really cares? I mean, in like Dragon Soul was that, but in like tier 10, 11? Yeah, tier 11, it was like if you let Pulverize drop off, it was really, really bad.
Right.
But in Dragon Soul, it was like, whatever, Pulverize fell off, who cares? But right now, it's like, Pulverize is 20% damage reduction, that's super good, and it needs to, like, stay up all the time.
It's a little good. It's passive Barkskin.
Yeah. Well, I mean, with the perk, it's 30. Barkskin's 30, but anyway.
Right.
So, yeah. One of the ideas that we were throwing around in the community was making just Pulverize baseline. That's the easiest way, I think, to make the rotation very engaging, that plus the Maul change. Some people aren't really like a fan of like a maintenance buff.
Yeah, people don't tend to like those.
No.
But the thing about, other than adding another proc, even though we already have 2, because that's typically what people associate with rotations being fun, is like
random parts.
Things procs, so you have to react to them, which is what both warriors and prop paladins have. Sort of that, or actually going to a 2-resource system, which is what monks have. But I don't think that's going to happen. Yeah, in DKs. But I don't think that's going to happen. I think that's the easiest way to solve the problem, is to make Pulverize baseline, probably nerf it a lot, and then change Maul and make rage generation, or increase rage generation to compensate for the Maul change.
And
but right now, it's like super boring.
Your rotational example there too, obviously, as I'm following you, is just if you do the DPS side of your rotation. That doesn't include hitting any other GCDs for survivability, which you have like 7, or well, in your mind you have different amounts, but in like my mind you have like 6 or 7 different like mitigation buttons to hit, cooldowns.
Yeah, but those are all. Those are not all of them.
No, not all of them are. But I'm just saying like to keep that one. So it's interesting though, huh?
I was going to say something else and totally forgot what it was. Rats.
We can give Ren the same question then, if you're... Sure.
Oh, I remember what it was. It was AoE.
Oh.
Sorry, Ren. Be with you in a sec. So AoE. There's an additional AoE problem. Thrash's impact damage is so high that it outpaces any other ability after 2 targets. So there's nothing... I mean... Thrash as an AoE dot is really cool. Like, we've had that for a while, or a long time, and it's a really cool ability. Initially, I thought removing swipe wouldn't be a big deal, because in Mist, swipe did basically nothing, and you never pressed it unless there was more than 4 targets.
Right.
But I think bringing swipe back will allow us to differentiate Thrash a lot more. Because right now it's trying to be a snap aggro AoE ability, a single target dot, and an AoE threat over time ability. That's a lot of things to force into one button. And I think if we separate out the snap AoE from AoE over time, we'd probably have a much more engaging AoE playstyle than we currently do, which is basically you press thrash, and that's it.
Yeah, that's all you have.
Yep.
Everybody loves those one-button AoE rotations.
I kind of wondered why thrash only doesn't apply its dot to just the thing you hit, but then it also hits everything around you like it would normally do, kind of like how swipe works. But you don't get all this free extra AoE threat and damage. But I don't play a Guardian Druid, but that's what I thought, and I was like, so AoE tanking, I just spam this one button. Cool.
Yeah, well, I mean, on beta there's a bug right now where the bug where thrash was generating 5 rage for every targeted crit.
Holy crap! Wow.
It's still there. So that's why everyone in beta is just spamming thrash, because you never run out of rage. So once that's gone, you'll spam thrash for the damage. But if we separate out the damage from like the damage over time from the impact damage,
right?
I think it'd be really good.
So then, Ren, same question then, with all the pruning and stuff going to blood decays. And this is like, I guess this is more of a, as weird as Guardian Druids are right now, I know when I was doing my beta testing, I felt kind of bad for blood decays. So, I mean, you can take this one away. What do you think with the pruning and the end-game tanking style that you guys are going to get?
Yeah, there are a few issues with blood at the moment. There are a couple of factors going into that. The first one is downtime is still an issue for single target. The devs are trying to make it so that Death Knights are going for resource generation stats, which is something that hasn't happened before. In our current incarnation, going back to Cataclysm, our baseline rune regeneration, especially due to like 20% we get from Blood Presence, has always been enough. And there's not really much we ever got throughout the tier. So it started enough and ended enough. It didn't grow as much. The growth for our resource generation was very, very low. And the engaging part of Blood Decay was managing your runes correctly inside of that. It wasn't so much that more equaled more fun or anything. It just wasn't a part of it. And they're trying to make it so that we are now valuing resource generation a little bit more, which is fine. The problem is that we have 2 resource generation stats at the moment, MS and Haste feeds into MS being multi-strike. So the way multi-strike works for us in resource generation is whenever we melee attack and multi-strike, we get 15 runic power. And the faster we auto-attack, the faster we multi-strike. So that's why there's direct haste into multi-strike benefit. So you're getting... So when you have the early levels of the tier, like we are right now in beta, you have very low haste and very low multi-strike. So there's a lot of downtime involved. And the worry is that... you can't really fix that without making it so that once you have a lot of both of those stats, just because of the high-level gears, once you get to tier 20, it's going to be the exact opposite, where because we have 2 stats feeding into each other, well, at least one feeding into the other, it's going to be the exact opposite where we can't get rid of it. Another part of this issue is that Necrotic Plague, or the low downtime makes Necrotic Plague pretty much mandatory for us, which is our level 100 talent. That we pretty much have to take right now, just due to the fact that it does give runic power, and it helps reduce this downtime, but it's not enough single target, and then that makes it so that AoE tanking is insane. It goes back to the exact other problem where you have too much, depending on how many targets you have.
Right.
How that works, for those of you who don't know, is an affected enemy attacks you. So if you have, get my trusty rusty calculator out. So you have like
calculator on hand. Nice. Nice.
I got it. All right. So let's say you got a 10 mobs. All right. So you have each doing 1.5 second swing timer. That's this is really entertaining radio, by the way. That's 400 like swings over a minute. If I did that right, I think I did that right. Never do math on air. That's the lesson I just learned now. But that's a lot of swings. So if you figure the chance of multi-strike is going to be very high on ADK, so that's going to be insanely high. That's just with 10 targets. And it doesn't matter how hard they hit you, it just matters that they swing at you. So it's not even a matter of like... Because there could be easily a situation where you have lots of little adds that don't hit very hard, and that just ramps up your Necrotic Plague like crazy. So yeah, that's part of the issue. So that's the downtime issue. The other part is that we don't really have many abilities. We got hit a little hard, in my opinion, by the pruning. Combine that with all of the leftover abilities we have are very, very specific to how we use them in our resource system. We have FU pairs being dropped on for single target. We have FU pairs being used on Deathstrike. We have Blood Runes being used by Blood Boil above 35% and Soul Reaper below 35%, and then we dump a Runic Power with Death Coil, and that's basically it. Then we just use Blood Boil with Crimson Scourge procs. So it's a very, very simple rotation. Nothing has to, at least in terms of single target, nothing is going to conflict with each other, depending on how they balance Blood Boil in regards to Deathstrike. We might then use Death Runes on Blood Boil for extra damage as a damage to trade-off.
Right.
But, other than that, there's like zero choice to be made in the resource system. You spend your Runic Power, you spend your Blood Runes on the appropriate ability depending on the boss's health, and you use Deathstrike. And up until recently, and this is kind of one of my other concerns that I mentioned earlier, was the whole the throughput oriented versus burst style thing. And the Celestalon kind of made me feel a little better when he I mentioned this and he talked in chat a bit. I was watching that if what he's saying is true, and it does kind of get better as tuning happens, and healers are gonna that's gonna be huge. Because as it stands, just in the testing that we've done, Deathstrike timing has not been very engaging at all, just because it's very throughput oriented. So basically, if you're not at full health and you're not going to overheal much, you're going to use Deathstrike just for the throughput. You're just going to go for it because there's no real benefit in delaying it outside of making sure you get the value of the heal.
Yeah,
and that's not very fun.
Nope.
So combine that, the loss of the engaging Deathstrike timing, combined with the fact that the resource system is very simple, and that every ability we have just takes one of those resource elements. It creates for a very simplistic and boring rotation, and then you combine that with the downtime, and it's just boring. It's just boring.
Yep.
So
that's what I was thinking.
Yeah, I mean, that's the situation, and there are lots of things that can be changed, and it is still very, very early in beta. I mean,
yeah,
we because of how long we've been in Siege of Orgrimmar, it's easy to forget how early we still are in the beta and the tuning phases of everything. For example, I mean, you brought us on Guardians and DKs because we are very broken in terms of healing right now.
Right.
It's simply because we haven't had tuning passes.
Sure.
At least not impactful. And that will change a lot, as well as how things are balanced in Mythic. So it's still very early. So I'm not trying to say the world is ending. I don't want people to go around saying, "Oh, blood is terrible.
No, of course
don't
not.
play it." But
no,
it is still a concern, and that's the whole point. People are passionate about the class, see this, and they are concerned. That's the thing. So
that's the whole point why I brought you both on, is because when I did all of my testing at every class in spec at 90, and then again at 100 over the course of like 3 weeks. And out of any of the tanks, I was just like, these are both incredibly simple. They never die, and they're boring as hell. That's what I thought. Like, outside 8, I don't tank on live. I've never really tanked, really. Like, at any given level, I have tank ult, but yeah, that doesn't really mean anything. And that, for someone that has no experience on playing a new class, shouldn't feel like, they should feel like new and fun, and oh, buttons are different, and this does that, and this. But, like, Guardian Druids and Blood DKs were like, I spam an AoE on one target, and then just spam this other button. And then Druids were like, so I keep Pulverize up, and I spam Thrash, and I hit Mangle every, 6 seconds? That's all you do. And I don't know if that's because they want you to have more time to work on your mitigation cooldowns and timing to take less damage and simplify your DPS rotation as a tank. But that's not true, because Prot Warriors and Prot Paladins and even Brewmasters have tons of like offensive feel. Like, you're smashing things, you're kicking things, you're flipping things, you're throwing your shield, you're judging things, you're Crusader striking things, you're shield slamming things, like you're doing stuff all the time. But you guys have like, rawr, rawr, chka, rawr.
Well, you know why that is, Bay.
That was awesome.
It's clearly because the developers like Paladins more.
Whoa, whoa!
Provided with more awesome
whoa.
Shots fired.
Shots
fired. And that's just why I brought you guys on, because we're not like angry at the fact that this is still beta. That's the whole point. Why we're doing this junket of all these classes, is to get feedback like this to see what is changing. And we've still got plenty of time to fix stuff and to change things and whatever. It's fine. But to get your feedback of what it feels like is the whole point, which is, I think, is really, really important.
I do want to say that I don't think I actually answered the person's original question. Which was,
Okay, tangents are cool. We're all about tangents here.
Right.
How ability pruning has affected Guardians.
Right.
Now, overall, ability pruning has been, like, now it's fine. Back when we didn't have Rejuve, Roots, or Moonfire was pretty bad. But after much rabble-rousing and hand-waving, we got those back. So now it's fine.
Right.
But prior to that happening, there was that weren't being filled by any ability. But actually having a Moonfire that does something is really cool. I'm really happy for that. And we got our PvE CC back, and we got Rejuve back, which is pretty much necessary to make Heart of the Wild even a functional healing talent. So
yeah. But we'll get into more of this a little bit. I'm going to take a quick little moment because we are running a little bit late on like the pushing of the topics here. We have a whole lot more to get into, but I'm going to take a quick little bit to talk about some communities and things behind the scenes, which we're talking about in the show here, and which you may or may not have heard about actually on Final Boss before. I take it we have lots of new people and beautiful faces in the chat room today, which is awesome. But if you have not heard of this website called manaflask.com, who currently actually has Warlords of Draenor beta keys, hint, 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 you can check them out. Again, manaflask.com, super awesome community website that we have been blabbing about now for, gosh, about a year, where they have tons of awesome streams. They have also German-oriented stuff and videos and things. They are mostly a European-based news site. They had a huge stunt with Suni of Method about healing in Mists of Pandaria, like 15 or 80 episodes of blog posts. So if you guys want some more World of Warcraft community and some news stuff, and interviews and things, maybe a chance to win a World of Draenor beta key, head over to manaflask.com. Also, we have the Inconspicuous Bear, which will be your place to go with all of the bear changes coming in Warlords of Draenor in awesome posts. Or you can all go over here to Team Waffle Podcast, which is their actual podcast that's by Druids for Druids. They have their one today where they just bring on different people from different specs of the class and talk about stuff and Druid things. So if you are a Druid and you like Druid things, go check out the INC Bear, the inconspicuousbear.com. Then for Death Knights, we haven't forgot about you. Sonofalich.com also has great articles and write-ups by the crew over there, and of course by Magdalena. Now, the big thing about this is that what Reniat said earlier is you want to click on this little button right here, or this little button up here, and log into the Acarus chat room. There are always people there. I could probably log in right now, honestly, and say hello, and that's a great way you want to connect with the Death Knight community, and that's the best way you can do it right there at sonofalich.com. Go check them out. Also, if you are new to the show and you have not seen episodes in the past, we have our YouTube page. All of our links are down below, our social media, our Facebook, our Twitter. All that stuff is down there, and all of our past episodes, stream highlights, and guest stuff is all on our YouTube page. You can also find us on iTunes and Stitcher Radio if you want to listen to the audio-only versions. But there he is. There he is. There's Celestalon. There he is if you want to listen to his interview we had a little while ago. Or the WoW Trivial Pursuit rounds 1, 2, 3, and 4 with all of our amazing guests. The live raid from BlizzCon 2013. I will be doing another one of these for 2014, of course, if it happens. A BTS of the event will still always go up on the website too. But it's all on our website, and it's all on our YouTube page. And last but not least, something of a little bit of an update for all of you. If you are going to been around for a while and you have some bunch of molten coins sitting around, I'm going to be doing some giveaways after the actual after show today. We're going to go offline and come back and do some giveaways for you guys. So some loot crates or some mounts or some pets or that thing that Anna talked about earlier today that if you missed it, you have to come back for that. So be here after the actual after show. The stream will go down and then come back up for you guys. And then last but not least, which should have been what I said for this one, I'm good at this stuff. We are creating, I am directing, producing, editing, putting together the War Crimes Machinima. We are adapting the book to a 10-part episodic, fully voiced, using the new models. Myself and Novel the Noble are working on this, as well as Silver Latomi is helping us write the script. People like Duck Sauce are going to be doing some voices, Jesse Cox as well. If you are a 3D modeler, if you are good with Maya or 3ds Max, if you are good with Photoshop, After Effects, if you want to be a voice actor, if you want to help us out, create this amazing 10-part Machinima series, send me an email at finalbosswow@gmail.com. with what you would like to be a part of, your demo reel, some stuff, some links to your voiceover stuff, maybe some options for what you can do with modeling. Do that and help us be a part of this amazing, crazy next year and a half of my life putting this together. And yeah, it should be a lot of fun, guys. And I appreciate everyone watching, all the new faces today. And let's get back to talking about Blood Death Knights and Guardian Druids with a question that comes in from... I'm pretty sure this is Keldarik's question, because why not? Yep, it is. What are your thoughts about Guardians, and then of course Blood DKs, losing the 40% increased healing received from Glyph of Frenzied Regen? And for Blood DKs, are there any like things that are being changed for you that you're losing? Obviously, it's not the same glyph for you, but we talked about ability pruning and stuff. What are you guys losing that you're curious about, and specifically, of course, with Guardian Druids with this glyph thing? Arielle, what's going on with this?
It's a trap glyph that nobody ever took except for Seda when he was world firsting Lei Shi.
Right.
Like, I don't know what else to say to that.
Right, of course. You're not losing anything else that you're really concerned about, though, right? Everything else seems pretty good? Glyph or talent-wise?
Some people would prefer Bear Hug. Bear Hug came back, but I have no...
Oh, that's true.
...particular, feelings about that. Some people want Thorns back, and they are wrong.
Even Celestial just said it was a trap.
Hey, man, like I said, it was a trap, except for world firsting Lei Shi. Heroic Lei Shi. Yeah.
What even just happened?
Everything else is pretty much fine. Other than the stuff we've already talked about, of course.
Oh my goodness, right. And then for Ren, then, are you guys losing anything from Mist to Draenor that you're like concerned about? Anything specifically that you're losing, maybe?
It's kind of a minor thing, but Army of the Dead is currently not worth pressing. The damage is pretty pitiful, and it lost any kind of semblance of like useful utility. In that, like, there's no more damage reduction from it, so it's kind of just like useless.
I will bet you anything that the zombies didn't have their swing damage coefficient changed to 3.5 and 14.
That's possible.
Just like Force of Nature hasn't.
Oh, maybe that's... Because I'm pretty sure with all of the outcry that was raised over Army of the Dead, they do want you to be able to push that button.
Right. Oh, I just read in chat it does have damage reduction confirmed by Celestial, so I must have missed that. So I will take it back.
You'll take it back. Okay.
The only other thing that I think might be weird is Rune Tap, and its current iteration is a damage reduction only, and I feel like I want the heal again. Like, not maybe as weak as it was in Mists, but the way it was before the last change, the last incarnation. So giving it a sizable heal whenever you push it. Just as another way to kind of, but it also depends on, what kind of damage shapes you're looking at. But I think there's a lot of mechanics that have been that played into that new Rune Tap very well. So there's a lot of big hit mechanics you can time for. So that those the breath, the molten breath or whatever it was on the fire flame weaver.
The what?
That one is good.
Good stuff.
I should probably just look up the name because I said it twice and I can't remember it either time. But that was really useful. Like, there hasn't been a fight that I really haven't found use in it, but I feel like I don't want to not push for some kind of glyph to allow for the healing, just because this tier happens to really favor the new version, and just I can't imagine they're going to always give those kind of abilities that kind of value.
Okay.
So if I don't want to say, all the bosses are playing into this new style well. We'll just forget about it because it may not be that way in the future.
Right.
So I'd like the option to get a heal, maybe as a glyph or something. But other than that,
that'd be an
the basic
direction. Yeah. I mean, they just changed your Rune Tap for that specific thing to be like that. Almost like it's like Savage Defense for Guardian Druids, right? It's similar in that style. It's like your shield block or your shield barrier or your shield of the righteous.
Right.
Nothing like that for monks, because monks are just amazing. Whatever. Yeah. So I wonder if that would happen, because right now I think I've heard that from other Blood DK. I think I talked to Kellerick about it, but it just feels like you lost what you liked before to something you don't like how it is now. I mean, things are changing, but if you could have the option to go back and forth based on your play style and how you want to act as a Blood DK, that might be nice to have. So, but no other pinpoint problems. Are there any actual bugs with things right now? I mean, outside of the tuning pass, are there actual bugs? Are there actual bugs like problems?
Are there bugs in the beta?
Well, that's what I'm saying. But we got bring them to light, right? But everyone knows about them, so bring them to light.
Okay. Well, I guess let's just get going. So Incarnation and Pulverize basically don't work together because, well, it's not really a bug. It's more of something that needs to be corrected in terms of design, which pretty much forces you into Soul of the Force because Force of Nature is broken, as I mentioned before. i.e. it uses the old weapon damage formula, AP divided by 14, instead of the new one, which is AP divided by 3.5, which means even if you taunt something with Force Nature, it's never going to be able to hold threat off of anyone. So that needs to get fixed. I mean, I've also been haranguing certain Sparkle Dragons to have it scale off of weapon damage, but it never has yet. Let's see what else is there. Right, so Incarnation and Pulverize, because of the limited number of free GCDs you have when you take Pulverize, Incarnation basically gives you nil benefit because those free GCDs are already taken up by Mangles or Thrash anyway. So you gain nothing by taking Incarnation. Okay. This is partially due to Pulverize being only a 10-second duration, and partially because of the number of GCDs you have to dedicate to actually powering Pulverize. Soul of the Force is fine, but Incarnation should let you cast Pulverize without consuming Lacerate, and that fixes the problem.
That'd be neat, yeah, right? Right, okay.
Tier 5 is fine. Tier 6, Dream of Cenarius literally does not proc. That's a kind of
that's kind of a bug.
That's just kind of a bug, right? There you go.
Oh, yeah. It's not happening, okay.
Which is a big problem when you're trying to like test how things play out. Like your level 90 talent literally does not work. Okay. It also has a secondary problem where crit is pretty bad. Okay, pretty is kind of an understatement. It's really bad for Guardians right now in beta. Like, really bad. Like, 25% of the value of any other stat bad.
Yikes.
So there's a few ways to fix that. You could make crit affect Ursa Major. Multi-strike crits grant double the amount of Ursa Major buff. You could have auto-attack crits generate 2 charges of Tooth and Claw instead of just 1. You could increase the rage generation from just ability crits. I'm hesitant to have Frenzy Regen crit because as a tank, you're always focused on. You're never going to plan for Frenzy Regen to crit, which means it's pretty much almost always going to go to overheal, which makes crit fairly worthless for a self-heal. But there's a few different ways you could make crit more valuable. You could also just basically rip off Riposte and make crit give you dodge, but that's boring and bland. And we all know Reniat stats on that.
Well, maybe we don't know, so we can hear it after this.
Yeah, we don't.
And then the level 100 talents are, I mean, we've talked about how ridiculous Pulverize is.
Right.
Guardian of the Loon, I talked about this on the podcast we recorded earlier this morning. But Guardian of the Loon now has this cost increase associated with it. So you take Guardian of the Loon, the recharge time decreases, which is cool, and was kind of a needed change to make it a useful talent. But now also the rage cost increases per time, which means that in order to actually get your maximum effectiveness out of that talent, you have to take extra rage stats beyond what you already have in order to make up for the cost difference, which is, I mean, it's okay. I mean, I think the downside of it being 3 seconds instead of 6 is enough of a downside. I don't think the rage cost per time is increased over that.
Right.
So if rage cost also decreased by your base dodge, then that problem's solved. And then it's actually a really effective talent, really effective niche talent for encounters where you have huge amounts of dodgeable damage, like special abilities that can be dodged. Tordos comes to mind. Council in TOT, where you can chain dodges to drop the debuff.
Right.
Garajal with shadowy attacks. It'd be really broken for something like Shaw of Fear, like really broken.
You dodge the multi attack, yeah.
You dodge an entire Dread Thrash.
Yeah.
Okay. But it would definitely make it. It would definitely take out the other like the downside that was added by fixing the previous problem. And then.
I asked you about this making the show, and you were just like, yeah.
The problem with Bristling Fur is that Guardians already have both ridiculous EH and as an effective health, which is the amount of health you have after counting normal stamina and however much damage reduction you have. And then you compare that to whatever the base damage of the ability is to find out like how long you're going to live, which is a function called TTL, but we're not going to get into that. So because of Ursa Major, our EH is so obscenely high that even if we need Bristling Fur as a cooldown, any other tank is already dead. So that sounds like a problem to me. Yeah. I mean, this is beyond the fact that Survival Instincts is 70%, which is absurd for a tank. I mean, it makes sense. Sort of makes sense for Feral, but for Guardian, like, tank cooldowns should be pretty much on par across the board, right? 50% was fine because it was the same as everyone else. 70% is kind of over the top. So I would like to see a talent that affected Frenzy Regen in some manner in place of Bristling Fur. So something like maybe a portion of your Frenzy Regen is instead converted to a shield, or maybe when you dodge, your next Frenzy Regen is going to heal you for X amount more, which is a blatant ripoff of the tier 15 two-piece, but whatever. But something to do with a Frenzy Regen would be, I think, a really good place for a level 100 talent, because you have a Savage Defense talent.
Yeah.
We've talked about Rise, but a Frenzy Regen talent, and then maybe something that's completely passive. That'd be kind of
interesting.
And then there's other bugs, like all of your bear-specific buffs stop working when you shapeshift, including Incarnation. Like, that's obviously doesn't make any sense. And then the Thrash one, which I mentioned before. But yeah, there's a lot of bugs, which I think are all going to get fixed over the course.
Sure. Like, I like, because we talked about this before, I like that you can point out bugs and problems and issues, but don't just say that they're wrong and then like wait for Blizzard to fix them. If you're going to be doing constructive criticism and theory crafting and bug testing and beta testing, you want to suggest things too. So you guys have both done a great job of that. Now we're going to get into blood decays in the same realm, but that's what helps too, because you can't just tell someone that it's wrong and then not give examples or thoughts to how to fix it or ideas. So yeah. So then same stuff with you then, Ren. What are you looking at with blood decays in this regard?
There's only a couple bugs that I know of offhand. The one that comes to mind, I think this is actually supposed to be fixed in the last build, and they were saying it was, and I don't think it was. It actually was fixed, but maybe now. At least they're aware of it in all respects. It's that Necrotic Plague is not critting. So which is a little weird. Also, I don't know if this is a bug or a bad tooltip or an attempt to see if it fixes balance, but Defile is currently stacking at double the rate it's supposed to. It's supposed to stack at 2.5% extra damage each tick per target, but it's not. It's doing 5.
Okay.
So that could either be an attempt to see if it changes the balance or just a bad tooltip. Either way, we're not going to be picking Defile, as you mentioned earlier. We're picking Necrotic Plague, so it's kind of a moot point.
Right.
But yeah, and I've been told, I haven't seen this firsthand, and Warcraft logs is down, so I can't verify. I've been trying to refresh every once in a while. Or at least it's down, our parses are being parsed by the server, whatever that means, so I can't get in there. But someone was telling me a little bit ago that the Blood Presence is not getting its crit protection. The 6% reduced chance to crit, I can't verify that for sure, but I figured I'd mention it, since it was told me by a reliable source. But I can't verify it right now, so...
And anything else off the top of your head for bug-wise? Are you pretty good?
Not really. Not that I could think of.
I mean, you didn't. I'll bring it up to mention it because you mentioned Defile and Necrotic Plague. But what does Blood DK look at Breath of Sindragosa? Other than it looks freaking cool, is it like what's the? Because I personally thought like I couldn't find a spec that would even use that for DK unless you were Two-Hand Frost.
Yeah.
So like, what do you guys think of it for Blood?
That's pretty much it. Frost can use it just because they're higher RP generation.
Right.
But as Blood, you use it, and then all your RP is gone, and then you go back in a massive downtime. It just does not play well in our downtime system right now. On top of that, and again, this is pre-Numbers Pass, yes. But at the moment, it does piddly squat damage. So you lose all your RP, you go in a terrible, resource drown situation, only to do a little bit of damage. And another issue with it is the utility it brings, because every tier 100 talent gives damage and some kind of utility for mitigation. With Necrotic Plague, it's runic power. With Defile, it's a 10% reduction, which is still really small, by the way. And then with Breath of Sindragosa, it's really weird. It's 5% of the affected targets, multiple targets. Magic damage output is given to you as a heal. So if I cast it on one target and then he does 100 magic damage, I get healed for 5 when he casts it.
Yeah,
which is really weird.
Right.
5.
Yeah. So
All
I mean, to put it in context, if the whole raid gets hit by something, I might get value from it, if it even affects bosses. But otherwise, it's really weird. I can't really think of a boss mechanic in the last few tiers that would have been really a time where that would have shined.
Right.
Especially regarding even damage tuning, and this before the fact that Necrotic Plague is kind of mandatory just due to how starved we are of resources at the moment for single target.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's I'd like to see that literally worked. Honestly, I know there's a lot that needs to be done, but Breath of Sindragosa, I'd really like to be like. There's two things that I really want to see useful as Defile and Breath of Sindragosa. Both are so cool, like aesthetically.
Exactly.
Like, I mean, we're Death Knights, and to have the same ability that Lich King uses, I mean, it's awesome. But and the fact that it grows and it's really menacing, and it's the same basic appearance as the one from the actual fight from ICC. That's awesome. But I'm never going to get to use it in this current iteration, outside of like things where that damage reduction is necessary. Like if it's an impale type mechanic where the entire fight for a tank is just making sure they have a massive amounts of cooldowns for like the various lethal hits they're going to take that are pre-planned. But I mean, Breath of Sindragosa, again, it's the same situation. It's cool. Like you're summoning the power of Sindragosa and breathing frost. And then, but again, it's just not powerful enough, and the utility is just not good enough to be used in most situations. So.
Well, we'll see. There's nothing worse than having that really awesome ability that you always want to use and that you never get a chance to use. So we'll see if maybe the tuning gets changed or maybe boss mechanics come out that make those useful to you.
And I think too, Celestalon brings up in chat that the idea with Breath is that that raid damage going out will actually be health positive for you, and that's great. But then it almost makes me feel like you could just breathe and then turn it off, and let it go on cooldown, and get the debuff on the target, and do like one breath of it just to not dump your RP.
Well, it's got a limited cooldown.
And then exactly, yeah. But when you use it, you don't have to let it suck all your RP, though, do you? I haven't used it before.
No, it's 15 initially and then 15 per second. So you could just do one tick of it, but the problem is
correct.
The debuff only lasts 6 seconds. So depending on
timing like a raid AoE or something like that, that's all you use it for, and that feels kind of weird.
But it's still a little bit too niche because if you think about it, if I really need that kind of healing and that kind of phase, then I'm going to be broken without it. And so if the damage is such that I would need an entire raid's worth of 5%, I guess, then it's going to be a problem. And it's off the target as well. At least from the tooltip, it looks like it's off the target. So if it's just one boss attacking everybody, unless it's considered a specific, I guess that depends on the back end. If it's like if it's per target, then maybe that'd be a little better. But but still, I mean, with 20 people, that's 100% of the damage dealt across the raid. That's good. But again, it's still. If I need the healing, I feel like that's too much damage going out in addition to everything else, because no other tank has something like that.
Yeah, I mean, it makes you wonder, though, if Breath should almost be like a spell that costs lots of runic power and does its damage over its time, but doesn't drain you, so you can time it better, because in its current iteration, you'd basically just cast it once or twice to get the debuff on before the raid AoE happens, turn it off, and then forget about it until it comes back up again for a minute later. And that to me doesn't feel like it's a neat mechanic, because it's like a breath and it drains your RP over time, and you can keep it up for a while if you keep doing it. But if you're only using it for like this ability at this time, then why not just have it like cost like, I don't know, 50 or 60 runic power, be like a huge burst of frost damage, and then give the debuff that lasts a little longer to play around with it. That's my thought. Because the draining mechanic is just weird, because if you're AoE tank, you can keep it up forever, basically, because you can just get so much runic power generation and stuff like around, just spamming your abilities, and I don't know. I'm not a tank, but that's what I feel.
Yeah, I feel like I'd almost rather have Breath of Sindragosa as an actual just rotational ability. So just to kind of go back to the limited choice we have for resources, give us like a channeled, or even not channeled, but like whenever you push it for 30 RP, you not cast it, but you like the next global cooldown is spent breathing or something like that. Just something like that. So that way it gives us an option to use RP for AoE. I think that's something we actually Death Knights could have used for a long time. Is an AoE RP dump.
I see.
But yeah. So I mean, I think that would go a long way to help with the feeling like we had nothing to push a lot of times. As far not the downtime, nothing to push, but the limited options to push.
Sure.
And yeah.
Well, that's a lot of really good feedback on those talents that you have. But I'd like to get into something a little bit more general here. We've only got a couple minutes left, but this is pretty important. I'd like to hear from both of you how you feel your active mitigation is feeling on beta, because this is big. I know that it has changed for Guardian Druids and for DKs. How do you feel like active mitigation is working out for you? Do you feel like it's going to be fun? Do you feel like it's going to work? Or have you just not been able to figure it out because of the tuning so far? And Ari, let's go with you first.
It's fine right now, outside of the one mall quibble that I have that I mentioned really earlier in the show. Otherwise, it's pretty much fine. The new mastery compensates for a lot of the randomness in Savage Defense, which is what it's supposed to do. It's probably overtuned right now. I expect it to get nerfed. But otherwise, it's pretty much fine.
How big is the difference between actively mitigating well and not actively mitigating well? Or is this the situation where you were talking about where you can pretty much just macro these abilities into your rotation and do them on cooldown?
The reduction of Savage Defense to 2 charges means you actually have to plan when you're going to use it now, which is good. Okay. Previously, you just spam it for as long as you tanked because the swap would happen before you ran out of Savage Defense uptime. Right. Now you actually have to pay, because you only have 2 charges, the max you can do is 18 seconds at a time. So you need to make sure that you're paying attention to when you actually need to use it as opposed to just using it whenever you feel like it.
Okay.
The mall thing, if that's fixed, that solves the mall problem. And then Frenzy Regen is the same, which is fine. Knowing when you actually need to heal versus when you can rely on your heals to heal you, or healers to heal you, is something that's pretty much the same as MOP. It's the same idea, except in MOP right now, you never have your healers heal you, whereas in Warlords, the idea is that you're supposed to be able to identify when you need to heal yourself versus when you can rely on your healers to heal you.
Right.
Okay.
Which is a really good thing.
Yeah.
Well, that's good. That definitely makes me feel a little bit better about the way that bears are working. Now, Reniat, what about you? How do you feel about Blood's active mitigation? Because I know you guys were the originally actively mitigating class, and now you needed to have changes.
Active mitigation hipsters.
Yeah, active mitigation hipsters before it was cool.
A lot of it has to do with, like we were talking about earlier, with the whole damage shape thing, and that's still up in the air. And like Cecilina was saying in chat earlier, how it very, my initial impression of it being very, very not bursty oriented at all, very much throughput oriented, could be very wrong. Once tuning passes go out, and once we start saying mythic, it could go back to the way I prefer it, which I'm hoping for. I really hope I'm wrong on that. But see, that's so a lot of my impressions of how we're doing it and how engaging our mitigation is kind of dependent on the answer to that, so we don't know right away. Because, in my opinion, the most fun thing in this game is Death Strike timing for damage shape. That's why I play it. It's awesome. So if that's there, then my mitigation feels pretty good, provided it's balanced, everything. But if it's not there and it's just throughput oriented, I'm going to feel pretty bad about it. And that has nothing to do with the abilities we have at our disposal and everything to do with the type of damage we're taking and the shape and the meta of tank healing in general. So it's hard to say right now, but right now I would say I think there could be a little more interaction with maybe giving Rune Tap a little more rotational value to kind of help feed into our lacking options for resources. Lower the cooldown, lower the value, and kind of make it something we use a lot more often. Because I feel like Death Strike is now the only thing we have in terms of rotational stuff, as opposed to at least Rune Tap was something we could use frequently. We still can, but it's not the same. The whole 50% reduction thing is something you're going to save for a big hit or not use because it's only 3 seconds. That's not enough to really reliably change the shape compared to a heal. Reason being, you can hold on to a heal until you need it, and then use it after reactively. That's the whole point of current Death Strike timing, is being reactive on something. So you hold on to it until you need it, then you use it when you need it when it's appropriate. Whereas if it's just a damage reduction, you can't react with a damage reduction. You have to pre-plan a damage reduction, and we're not going to spam Rune Tap always for the 3 seconds because it's a pretty significant damage loss if we do, given how Blood Boil is tuned right now.
Right.
So it doesn't feel good to use in a normal rotation unless there's a mechanic coming at us. So it feels like it's gone from the standard rotation without those kind of mechanics. Again, without some kind of adjustment to be including with a heal of some kind. So.
Yeah, I mean, it's weird. I don't know what they can do with blood personally because I don't play a DK. But when I was talking about the rotational things and stuff with you guys earlier and about pulverize not being baseline, I harkened back to when I was doing arms warrior testing and talking to Archie, and it feels like you have to take either slam or ignite weapon to feel like you have a rotation. And I don't know if that should be the choice in talents, really. Like with you,
no, it shouldn't.
Ari, you believe that pulverize feels like a better rotation without it, correct?
And with it, you mean?
With it, well, yeah. Without it, it's like with it though you can actually do stuff, right? But Blood DK doesn't have even that option. You only have your 3 and your 1 spender. Like if you can take like breath, maybe you can have like an option like 1 minute, because you're just gonna take Necrotic Plague though, which is passive.
Right.
So you don't even have a choice to do something else in your rotation right now.
Well, even at 1 minute, I would say that even if we do get to pick Breathless Negrosa, it wouldn't be something that would solve the issues because it's too
of
long.
course. It's a long cooldown. Yeah.
I mean, I'm all for talenting into additional complexity for DPS specs, but
sure.
I don't think it should be that way for tanks. I think tanks should have their abilities that should be able to reach if they play well, should reach this plateau where everyone else lives. I don't think you should be able to like pick a talent and then magically be above everyone else for no apparent reason, other than you're able to manage that talent. Like, I mean, obviously different talents have different purposes and so on, but and Guardian Maloon being really broken for certain situations may turn out to be a problem. I don't know what the encounters are like, so I couldn't tell you.
Right,
but,
of course.
There being a specific plateau with baseline abilities is really, I think, what should be the goal for tanks. DPS still came with that disparity because the what's the word I'm looking for? Skill cap is high enough, or like the skill cap difference is big enough that the people who are at the point where that matters can take advantage of that. Whereas tank survivability matters to everyone all the time.
Yeah, it's interesting. It is an interesting thing right now, and I think that's why I wanted to bring this episode up in first, because even out of all the DPS testing in those classes, and even the healers, I don't feel like there's anyone that's like in this sort of rut right now. I'm sure everyone has their own opinions of their own class and spec, sure, but...
Oh, I think there are a lot of classes and specs that feel as though they're in a rut.
There's definitely... Well, with Blood DKs, you have 3 buttons.
Yeah. Okay, that is kind of bad.
That's a rut.
That is okay. All right, I'll give you that one.
I mean, like,
and the 1-button AOE rotation I did make fun of earlier. That's no good.
Both of them have that, unless they. I mean, Death and Decay is a cooldown, or you take the file to
30
replace
seconds,
it.
Though, and it's also free when you do get to use it.
Correct. So you have Blood Boil to at people, and then Arielle has to thrash at people. That's all they have. Which is, I guess AOE is so situational, but still, like that's. I'm doing the shoulder thing. You can't see me, but like it feels weird. So I don't know. I have a last question real quick for both tanks. It's gonna say Guardian Druid, but ignore that because I'm bad at typing up questions. This comes in from Rent-A-Bear on the Twitters.
Excellent name, A+.
Absolutely. So as Guardians and Blood DKs seem to be at the top of the beta right now in survivability, I guess in quotes. What could or should Blizzard do to not make them mandatory for raiding, but also not make them useless? So we'll go with Ari on this first, just because of it's right at Guardians first, and then we'll go with Ren. What do you think? Like pinpointed stuff. What do you think?
Nerf Pulverize, Nerf Mastery. It's kind of hard to comment on what abilities need to have actual DPS changes to them, because tank DPS is all over the map right now relative to actual DPS specs. So it's really hard to comment on that. I mean, I'll issue the blanket statement of make tank DPS even among all tank classes. Okay.
That's of course the goal, I would imagine, right? Yeah.
But the 2 primary ones are Nerf Pulverize and Nerf Mastery.
Yeah, Pulverize need to be, if it's all the time, Pulverize shouldn't be 20%. That's a little much. And then Ren, what do you think?
I think it's a lot to do with numbers. I kind of just have a principle. I don't really say anything is too overpowered or anything, with the exception of mechanics things. Necrotic Plague. But
subtle. Good job.
Yeah,
nailed it.
I totally nailed it. But in regards to like blood, like Celestin was saying earlier, blood active mitigation and guardian active mitigation is just tuned really high. Our self healing is ridiculous, along with like I think Prot Paladin's a little bit the same way in terms of the raw self healing, but that's going to change. I mean, we're still very much in the mechanics phase. Like that's something that needs to be stressed. So the numbers passes haven't happened yet, and because of that, it's really hard to say what's going to be good or what's going to be. Does this break anything? Is what they're looking for. Not, does this do more damage than that? That'll come. I mean, they may be doing that a little bit here and there as it happens, but for the most part, it's coming. And so until we get there, try to avoid saying this is class going to be great, this class is going to be crap, because it's just too early to tell. We have to rely, you know, they can get the classes to where it's not a huge discrepancy.
Correct.
It just takes a couple passes. So.
No, it does. And you guys are doing great strides for helping out your communities, so keep doing what you're doing. On all the other tanking theory crafters and every theory crafter out there, keep doing what you're doing. It's sort of like a selfless, like loveless, you know, job, right? You don't get like tons of like praise and acclaim for it, but here you do, being amazing.
Yep, and all of our listeners and watchers who are in the beta, just keep in mind what these guys are doing and provide your feedback, not just like posting about it, you know, on your own internal forums and on Twitter and stuff, but put it up in bug reports and put it on the official forums, because that's where they're looking for that feedback. And then, because if you just put it on your Twitter feed or something, then you can't complain that nobody's listening to you. Just saying.
Exactly. Hashtag the devs are listening, and so is my button finger.
Exactly.
There it is.
But let's just wrap this up a little bit, because I'd like to give you guys a chance to give some closing remarks to your fans out there in the Blood DK and in the Bear communities.
Right.
What would you like for people to take away from your beta experience so far? What would you like for them to keep in mind when they're testing? Just any kind of closing remarks you want to give. And we'll go with you first, Reniat.
Right. Wait, can you hear me? Okay.
Yeah.
Actually, I opened my mic. Okay, I was paying attention to chat and didn't hear the question.
Well, I was going to ask for your closing remarks, anything you want to kind of tell people to take away.
I guess the most important thing is the thing I just said about the don't freak out too much about mechanics phases of beta. There's a lot of people being very, you know, it's natural to want to, you know, when you're passionate about your class and you're passionate about your play style and your spec and the game in general, you want things to be good, you know. But it's realized the devs want that too. So don't. You know, there's been a lot of really vitriolic, if that's a word, Twitter like aggression toward devs a lot lately, and I think I don't think that's so much that a new thing, so much as the devs are just starting to get out there on Twitter, and that's the new part. And it's just that now they have a face to be targeted by the community as a whole. Yep. I think we should do a lot better as community members to encourage that to not happen, because it doesn't help anyone. And you know, the devs know what they're doing. They have thick skin, and they know that, you know, when you put yourself in the community like that, you're going to get that. But you know, it's still something that we have to keep in mind as we tweet them. We don't want to propagate that type of attitude.
Nope.
If we can help it. So.
If we can help it.
I like that message. That's a really good one, and one that I and many others, I think, who are watching the show can definitely agree with.
And Ari, what about you, buddy?
Primarily, don't. I mean, pay attention to what other people are saying, and don't try to repeat what has previously been said. I mean, you can direct comments as sort of, well, this is what I think about this issue, but don't like say, I'm just going to pick something out of the air, but don't like say, there's a lot of stuff about the Clauses Travala thing right now, but don't say, or don't spam Celestalon with like angry messages about how much you hate Clauses of Travala. Like, that's not going to help anybody. Say, don't express, or don't let your feelings dominate how you express yourself. Instead, use your feelings to communicate respectfully and effectively in a way that someone else can read and go, oh, okay, I understand that. Totally makes sense from your point of view.
Absolutely.
Instead of like raging about like, we're gonna Hulk smash stuff. I don't know.
I'm gonna quit. Bears are so broken. I'm never gonna play again.
Yeah, exactly.
Like that's useless. That's like saying that's like, okay, I know you're angry, but why? It's the why that's important, not the fact that you're angry.
Exactly. And
I love this tone that we're ending the show with here. I agree with this completely.
I brought that up with you on I was typing in your chat earlier on your podcast that people like want things to change, or especially like with the art for you guys, because the Claws of Shrivala reminded me about this, and like Moonkin form, and how Claws of Shrivala is like a male form only, but like what if you're a female druid and stuff like this. So instead of like just being blatantly angry about that change, find some artists or make up your own art and like draw up suggestions. If you're going to suggest things about like art stuff and that they're doing this huge visual upgrade pass with this expansion, like do that. Or if you have changes to talents like we've done on the show, don't just say this is broken, fix it. Say this is broken, but if you did this maybe, or try this possibly, or I would do this, or maybe this would work. Those help a lot more than just saying like that.
Word vomit.
Word vomit. Indeed.
Well, I don't always think that all kinds of feedback needs to be accompanied by a suggestion to improve
not all of it.
Future, but
not,
definitely the tone stuff I would 100% agree with.
Yep. So. The tone stuff goes like this. I'm going to push the button. This time for real. I accidentally hit it earlier by moving it, but...
Oh, no.
You didn't hear it. It's fine. I got it this time. We're good to go. We're good to go. Thank you all very much for watching today. Of course, stick around. We have an after show coming where you can just actually ask questions on Twitter or the chat room for our amazing guests. But first, our amazing guests were Mr. Reniat himself from Whatever We're Awesome over on the Twitters at ReniatDK. Thank you for being on the show a second time, sir. It was a pleasure.
It was a pleasure to be here.
Thank you so much. We have Mr. Arielle over here from Bay Retirement Home, also on the Twitter at Arielle EJ. I don't know what that stands for.
I stole it from Hamlet. It's fine.
Hamlet. Yep, you did. And on the coast of Final Boss TV over here. There's Anafale on Twitter as well. Look at all these Twitters at Anafale. There she is. Want to show your little pet off again, Anna? Where is he? Where is he?
He's right here. He was standing next to me.
Yeah.
My pet. My pet. With photos of him texted to me by a mysterious and wonderful person who is my friend who got me this. So
that's amazing.
Thank you so much. And hopefully everybody else is just as excited as me. When the Sprite Darter goes on the store, I'm buying that one too.
Oh, yeah, that's right, because that one's only at Comic-Con, but the Sprite Darter is on the store, right? Mm-hmm. Ah, gotcha. Perfect. And, of course, there's my face over here. All of my personal information, of course, is found on the website at FinalBossTV, with all of our social media down below here, or on BayTLM on Twitch. That's my personal channel. I'm usually found streaming on here, though, on this channel now for Warlords of Draenor stuff and beta testing and WoW and things. You can find me here, of course. Again, don't go anywhere. We have an after show coming up. And, again, after the after show, we're doing some giveaways. But next week, in our little junket of beta stuff, I'm going to either grab 2 melee DPS or 2 healers, depends on their scheduling. It's hard to set up stuff right now when beta's going on because people are like taking on vacation or going places or doing stuff like that. So we'll either do healers, 2 healers, or 2 melee DPS next week. So stay tuned for that. You'll find more details, of course, on our Facebook and our Twitter. And if you missed past episodes, this episode will be up on YouTube tomorrow with both the after show and the main show. But stick around. We're going to take a quick little break, come back, and we'll see you guys in a moment. Thank you all very much for watching, those new to the show tonight. And trust in the coin. Have fun at work tomorrow. And if not, we'll see you around. Thank you very much for watching. For everyone behind the scenes, thank you so much. Until then, guys. Bye-bye. 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 Wave bye-bye. Wave bye. Oh, my goodness. Oh, yeah, we're doing it.